Good morning, welcome to Scott Rods. You know, I really want to fire this bad boy up, but there's just so much to do first. Or is there? So as you know, I really wanted to do a live stream of the first start, but YouTube is just not working at the moment. It will not let me live stream with my mobile. So here we are. So let's go through the list of what a sensible person would do before they started this car. Oil pressure sensor. You see that little brass hole is where my oil pressure line comes, and you should be attaching a pipe that goes through your dash into your gauge, blah blah blah, but I can cap that off for now. I know I've got pressure in this engine, or at least I did a year ago when I started it, so let's score that off the list. Gas pipe system. There is a tank in there. I'd rather not excuse me, I'd rather not plumb it all in just now because I've still got some potentially welding work to do back there. It's all plumbed in right to the fuel pump, so I'm thinking I've got a can of gas up there. Okay, just run a hose straight from that to the pump. Right, score that off the list. It's my list, by the way. Battery. I was going to mount the battery in the trunk area, run a cable under the floor, not under the floor actually, I want this on top of the floor, so I'll need to make a channel that will go all the way to the starter and all the fuses and blah blah blah. I can just set the battery down there for now. Right, score that off the list. Ignition switch, yeah, I definitely need an ignition switch. Ignition key switch, sorry, key switch and ignition. All I have to do for the ignition is run one wire to my HEI distributor. Earth strap, yep, I can do that. Ground it out. So really not too much to do to just fire it up. Obviously I'm not going to have any cooling, so if I do this today, I'll be running it for about 30 seconds max. So what do you think? Think we should go for it? I think so. It's getting a bit quiet around here, although it is quite early in the morning. Right, let's go through the procedure. First thing I want to do is make a starter switch. So this was my horn switch. It's got a sort of rubbery thing over the top, and it still will be my horn switch. However, for now, I'm going to make it a temporary start switch. I don't want to have to wire up the key, so obviously there's some live wires at the bottom, so doing that sort of thing would be painful. So all I need to do, I'm going to cut a hole in the top of this, screw that up through there, and then I'll have space underneath, and I can just use my foot to step in that to start it while I squirt gasoline down the carburetor. So let me make that quickly. There we go, simple start switch. Lots of space underneath so that it doesn't ground out. A couple of access wires. Right, next. Temporary gas tank. As I say, I don't want to be using this tank yet because I still have potentially some welding work to do in the floor back here. So if I just use this for now, that should do fine. I will put this on the ground before I start it. It would benefit from being up here at the moment for some gravity feed, but when I take that pipe out, and if it's up here, all the fuel is going to be left in that hose, so it'll be better on the ground. Right, that's the fuel taken care of. Next thing I want to do is block off that little hole down there. That's where your oil comes out for your oil pressure gauge, and if you don't block that off or put your gauge on, it sends a lovely stream of oil up, and on this particular application it will hit the underside of the distributor, which is not a good thing. So I have one of the ends that you would normally use, and as you can see it's got a hole in it. So I'm just going to sacrifice one of these little rubber caps. I'll just chop the top off of it and stick it down there, tighten it on, should be good. Just in case I wasn't clear about what I was doing. So there's my little connector. As I say, it normally has a hole. Ran some rubber down it, and now I can put it onto the oil pressure outlet, create a seal. Right, gotcha. Now we have some wiring to take care of. Not a huge amount. I'm going to do the absolute basic minimum required. So as you can see down there on your starter motor, you have a thick connection, thick post, and then just up there there's a tiny little one. So this was your sort of main power feed to turn the battery over, to turn the starter over, which turns the engine over. So you need a big thick gauge. I think it's a 2 gauge wire or whatever going to that, might be 0, I'm not sure. The little one, it still needs a decent wire. I think I will be using a 10 gauge wire for that. So that will connect to this wire here, which will go to my temporary switch, and the other side of the switch, that will just go to the positive feed of the battery. The thick wire will go straight to the battery. For now, I'll probably fuse that at some point with like a 30 amp or whatever it is you're supposed to put in. And the ground for the starter motor is actually the engine block. For the moment I've got an earth strap here, but again I'll just connect that straight to the negative terminal of the battery. So that's our switching setup. Still got to set up the last part of the electrical system, which is the wire that goes to the underside of the distributor. Right, that's the starter wired up. As I say, small wire goes to your switch, and then it goes to usually your ignition on, and then your start, you know, your on-off start thing. Not your on-off, your, what do you call that term? Occasional switch. Right, so that's my occasional switch. And the big thick live goes to the battery, so they're both hooked up. So if I press that, the motor should turn over. It won't start yet because I don't have the distributor plugged in, so let's make sure it turns over. Which also serves as a bit of a oil priming. I'll do it a bit more. So all that's left to do then is put that single wire, it's basically just a positive wire that goes to a constant live to your battery or ignition somewhere on off, and it's again earthed through the block, through that earth strap to the negative terminal of the battery. So I will hook up the HEI wire, and then I can put in the fuel hose at the back, get my little syringe, squirt some fuel in there, and away we go. We're almost ready for our first start. So that's the wire I was talking about. If you look in the top of your distributor, one says tach, one says battery. It doesn't actually mean battery, it just means your constant feed once your ignition is switched on. So that will normally go to my ignition switch, and then when you turn your ignition to the on position, that'll be live. And then when you turn it beyond that, it kickstart the starter motor, and then obviously your key always goes back to the middle, which is a constant live. So for the moment that's just going straight to the battery, and I have that on with a big clip at the moment. In case anything bad happens, I can just grab that and take it off. So the only thing left to do is hook up some gasoline, but I am also going to jack up the back axle and get the wheels off the ground, because I don't want this slipping into gear and going into the garage. Right, we have power hooked up, we have gasoline hooked up, I have my trusty fuel squirter, so the only thing left to do is give it a shot. However, if you want to see it start, tune into, I'm only joking, let's do this. Action! exciting. It's hot. Got everything. Great success. Again. That'll do for now. Happy days. So what's next? Right, now that that's out my system, I can compile a list of everything that's needing done in order of priority. Priority being getting it on the road without it falling apart as I drive it. I can deal with cosmetic stuff after, but the thing is, if I start doing electrics, I really need to get it in the garage because I don't have glass yet, and there's no point doing the front windscreen because the window isn't done, so I can't leave it outside until all the glass is done. So my plan is clear that space and get the car inside, and then I can really get stuck in. But I think the priority at the moment is getting the brakes finished off and the gear linkage. Gear linkage isn't a problem, but I do have to address that big hole in the floor, you know, that's covering the transmission area. So I think that's what I'm doing next. Brakes and gear linkage and floor. I don't know what order I'm doing it in. Oh boy. Anyway, thanks for dropping by. And as I say, sorry I couldn't live stream that, but YouTube just isn't cooperating at the moment. I'll maybe do a live stream of the first drive if it's working by then. Till then, thank you for dropping by. If you've not subscribed, please do so. I appreciate everybody, and the support you've been giving me to get this thing running and built is just insane. So thank you so much for that. Right, back to work for me and back to work for you. Bye bye.